Hello. Hey.
Hi.
Yay. Okay, so that part's working great. I'm going to just test out the slides. So I'm sharing my screen right now. Okay, can you see my desktop?
Yep, it's doing that crazy thing. I don't think you showed the right one. I see myself.
All right. So, can you see this?
Yep, there you go.
Okay, and then I'm gonna hit presenter mode. Can you see that okay?
Yep, but you just gotta go to the first slide. Great.
Good?
That's good.
Okay. Fabulous. So, do you want to start here with that first slide up, or do you want to start with our lovely faces?
Up to you.
Okay, and what can you see now?
You.
Can you see us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so do you want to wait 1 or 2 more minutes?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. And if anybody's here, you can tell us that you're here in the questions or come join us.
Absolutely. So that's up on my screen. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
We're going to get a big thunderstorm in about 20 minutes. So.
Oh, hopefully we'll be done. Maybe we should stop.
Fantastic.
All right. Want to get started then?
I think so. So, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us for our final installment of Session 5, Leading the Change of Personalized Learning. I'm so excited that Jill Thompson is back joining us with our final session, and she's going to take the lead to talk through the arduous but exciting change that involves creating a personalized learning space from classroom to district and back down again. So with that being said, I will go into the slide sets. Just to give you an FYI, these slides are posted on learningpersonalized.com/webinar series. You'll not only see the slides there, but also the YouTube video based on our 20-minute conversation today. So with that being said, I am going to share my screen and I'm going to turn it over to Jill.
Wonderful. Thank you, Allison.
Right. So hopefully you can see. Is that okay?
Yep. If you just want to put it in present mode, we'll be good to go. Awesome. So we're going to talk about leading the change for personalized learning. And I broke it up into 3 kind of buckets, if you will. We're going to first talk about leading the change through the district and being at more of a central office type of place. And we'll go more into the school, leading change for personalized learning into the school. And then we'll end with how you can do it inside just your classroom if you are a classroom teacher that wants to start this. All right, so those are the 3 buckets that we'll be going through. So the first one is leading change for personalized learning in the district. Now, this is really important because you want to make sure that you're aligned with your district initiatives and or your strategic plan, because personalized learning is not another thing. I think you guys have understood through all our different sessions that we have done with you that personalized learning is more about just having the student drive their learning and being just more purposeful about what you're doing in the classroom so that it is more student driven. We are not asking you to change everything, but also small things. But again, if you are aligned with the district initiatives, it will feel that it is part of a whole.
Absolutely, and I want to make a comment that when it comes to the types of district-wide changes that you might envision, it may start out with a lovely concept of students being more accustomed to driving their own task development and design. But very quickly it starts dismantling some pretty predictable traditional structures of schooling. So time of day, do I have to be in the classroom daily for 45 minutes? Do I have to report out grades at a certain 9-week window? There are lots of quiet questions that become more and more vocal when that have to be taken care of at the district level, especially because it involves a fair bit of policy shifts as well as instructional shifts.
Agreed. With that being said, then you also want to change management plan. You really want to think about all the different stakeholders that this is going to impact, from the student all the way to the community, because there's going to be lots of different views, and you're going to want to make sure that change management plan has a message for each of them so that they understand and that they can be a part of the process, but also have accountability as well. You know, you really need to start and think about what is the problem you're trying to solve and what's getting in the way of your progress. And thinking things through like that will help you change the culture of the learning and teaching that's going on in your district. You know, when you're managing complex change, you really need to make sure that you have the 5 components in place. And those 5 components being, you know, if a vision, having skills, incentives, resources, and an action plan. Because when you don't have all those components, your initiative is going to fail, because if you don't have a vision, you're just going to have mass confusion from everybody. If you don't have the skills, then you're going to have the anxiety that they're not going to be able to perform. And if you don't have the incentives, you're just going to get a gradual or a slower change, not the change that you would want. And if you don't have the resources, you're going to have teachers that are frustrated or principals that are frustrated. And if you don't have those things and into an action plan, you're not going to be able to start this at all. You'll have that false start. You might get a little way down the road, but then you're going to have to backtrack.
And if you want to see a good example of this, Jill and I collaborated on an action plan design in Learning Personalized around a literacy structure. So if you take a look at that in the Learning Personalized book, it does give you a level of clarity about what Jill's describing, and not only in terms of the action plan, but how to drive a process forward in relation to a vision.
And then, you know, you need that professional development, those resources, and the professional learning that you need to have in your district needs to be modeled of what you want to see them doing in your classroom. So you really need to personalize the professional development for them. Offer choices, offer different levels, offer different paces, you know, virtual versus face-to-face, and having them so that they are working at their level, at their pace. It does take time, but you also have to remember that when you're going through change, you need to do what's best for students, and you need to do what's best for teachers, and that doesn't necessarily mean what's easiest for you. So you do need to make sure that you get all sorts of training out there for your staff and at all different levels.
And before we move on to the next slide, I think what Jill just suggested is incredibly important. Nothing is worse than doing a whole group training on personalized learning because very quickly the message really contradicts the professional learning experience. So right out of the gate, really think hard about how can we honor the nature of the personalized learning we're asking students to experience, but in a way that's modeling what professional learning looks like for staff.
Absolutely. So now getting a little bit more into how you can lead change for your personalized learning in a school. The very first thing is to explain the vision and build teacherpreneurship. And this teacherpreneurship is where you have teachers as leaders, and they're the ones that can do these best practices, and they can do the professional development for your staff. So you're building within and not getting a contractor necessarily out, or not getting the central office to come out to your school, but building the teacher leadership within your own building.
And if you're trying to create a culture of innovation, which teacherpreneurs desperately need, you also need to think hard about the supporting mechanisms. So there has to not just be a culture of innovation, but also a culture of risk-taking.
Agreed. And then modeling best practices and being that change agent. Principal's goal is to maximize the impact they have on students and teachers. And the most influential, I can't even say that word today, factor in student learning is the teacher and then the principal. So making sure that you are not micromanaging instruction, but you're letting teachers be autonomous, and entrepreneurialism is happening in your building. Humans are motivated by two things: doing things that are intrinsic, meaningful to themselves, and working with others to accomplish that goal. So really making sure that you utilize both of those things so that your teachers are also then becoming change agents, and you're modeling and showing what you want to see in your building.
And it's interesting, Jill, in terms of how you frame that, which is spot on. So we're not micromanaging the details, but we are continuing as building administrators to hold true to the vision. So I think the idea is that it doesn't mean that anything goes from a teacher's point of view. So we're encouraging autonomy, but autonomy in service of that vision. There's also has to be an expectation that the autonomy comes with responsibility. And I think autonomy and responsibility does continue to honor the notion of intrinsic motivation, but also there's a level of responsibility that comes with sharing out what happened to determine, is this something that potentially can go to scale, or potentially needs to continue to get reworked or refined, or potentially might be abandoned to come up with a new idea.
Yes. And then you also want to make sure you're creating a mission statement or an action plan to really start setting your path so that everybody's on the same page. And you also can use this as a way to reflect upon what you're doing. So you might want to break it down by quarters or by semester, depending on how your school calendar is. But making sure that you say, okay, these are the professional developments we're going to offer. This is the first few things that we're going to try. And then having that reflection to make sure that those are the things that you are doing. We need to make sure that we are stop depending on Band-Aid remedies, instead focus on the changing the culture within itself. And to do that, an action plan and going over and reflecting on what worked and what didn't work is very important in this process, because you are going to fail and you are going to mess up, and learning from that so that you can improve is going to help you, and that action plan holds you accountable.
So when Jill a few minutes ago said you want to be on the same page, again, there's this real balance and perhaps tension with a building administrator holding folks on the same page. And one more time, it's not holding them on the same page as they move through the action plan. In fact, it's getting everybody on the same page in relation to the goal clarity that the school mission requires. So oftentimes, the action plan step may be too limiting, or it may actually be need to be reworked. But you find that out through, again, a level of experimentation that the teacherpreneurs are charged with. Mm-hmm. So the idea here is to not be so prescriptive of what step we are on now in our action plan, but where are we in relation to the goal clarity, and how we can continue to monitor and adjust the action plan in that service.
Absolutely. It's very important to also take small steps and really move from student-led classroom to a student-driven classroom. For example, one of my teachers was already doing a data dashboard, and so then all we had to do was just really turn that into more student-driven so that the students are taking over and really driving that learning. You know, a myth is that we always think my one-up, you know, is leading this change. He or she is the change leader. I just do what I'm told. But in reality, you don't need a title to be a leader. We are all responsible for leading change, and you need to make sure that you are being the change you want to see. And this is one way that you can do that, by making small changes so people can see how it affects your students and how much more engaged they are. And then soon you'll see that they're going to want to join. But at some point, everyone has to start. Do you want to add anything, Allison?
I mean, I think you summarized it, and this is something that I've been talking about in the first 4 sessions. Again, thinking about a student-driven classroom, it doesn't mean that the teachers take a back seat, and I want to continue to emphasize that. So student-driven is really honoring the ideal learning partnership, where the student and the teacher work collaboratively together. So yes, the teacher is still in charge in terms of the organizational structures and the grading, but at the same time, we are trying to suggest a very different dynamic where the teacher and the student are working in concert with one another, as opposed to a hierarchical fashion.
Absolutely. And then, you know, making sure you have a growth mindset. If you have not already read Mindset by Carol Dweck, I do suggest that one, because it's not reality if you go and everything is perfect. Things are going to happen, but at least you're trying and you're failing forward. And that growth mindset needs to be also seen by your students. And sometimes I even fake that me failing so that they can see me having that growth mindset. I know, you know, with a smartboard, how many times they've told me tips and tricks for it that I might have already known, but letting them show me helps them think that they're helping me, but it also shows them that I'm having that growth mindset and really being open to working on myself or working on something. So it's important to model it as well as try to instill it into our students. And there's a lot of great books out there for kids that you can read as well to also teach this skill. But it's, again, one of those habits that you talked about last week as well with Bennett and Allison.
Yeah, and I mean, a point on this is that there is a little bit of a grading implication here. So it's very difficult to have students be willing to fail forward. As lovely as that term is, if it's associated with scoring points, it's much less likely to happen. So when you're thinking about growth mindset and trying to make that part of your classroom culture, trying not to take an exit ticket and turning it into 10 points or 20 points as part of a larger accountability system. So I found when I'm working with teachers, yes, there is a push to get certain scores into the book. But at the same time, if we truly want kids to be in an environment where they too find it's okay to take a risk and make mistakes, having that also create any kind of scoring implication is difficult to manage right out of the gate.
Absolutely. And then, of course, connect with your PLN. You know, if your grade level or some other members in your school are not willing to try to start this, know that you can connect with your PLN, and that can be through Twitter, it can be through Voxer, it can be through Instagram, but it also can be through blogs, and it can be through books that you can go through. You know, again, another great book that you can use is Learning Personalized by Allison, because that again can walk you through a lot of the steps and really take you through, and you can see different examples from around the world. But connecting with your PLN is really important because it's somebody that is going through the same changes that you are, and or somebody that's already started it and maybe you can learn from as well. But then also make sure that you tweet out or you somehow use social media to also share your experiences so others can learn from you. It is definitely a two-way street, but you have so many resources at your fingertips that you can use so you're not on an island by yourself.
Absolutely. And learningpersonalized.com is a great resource. So is Edulum. But I think another important point is that Jill and I started having a conversation a year ago, and then it continued to grow and develop to create this idea for a webinar series. So as you start to think about personalized learning, from the beginning parts of the personalized learning elements to thinking about the shifts in teacher identity to the integration of habits of mind and leading the change, hopefully this series gave you a quick window into the key aspects of personalized learning, but also did give you a level of clarity on the pitfalls, but the promises of personalized learning as well. So,
and that you can reach out to us anytime. So even if you go and you start this journey in September and you do a lot of front loading this summer, we are always here. So you can email us or even tweet at us and ask us any questions that you have.
Absolutely. So I know a couple folks have started tweeting out this session already, but once again, you can go to learningpersonalized.com to see the slides that Jill and I created, as well as take a look at the session 5 video. So one more time, thank you again, Jill, for hanging out with me in the session.
Thanks
for those folks, yeah, and for those folks that are early stages, we greatly appreciate that as well. And Jill, do you want to say goodbyes?
No. Bye, good luck, and I can't wait to hear about everybody's journey.
All right. Thank you, and we'll be in touch.